Welcome, everyone. For those of you who haven't met me yet, extra headphones on. My name is Michaela Magus, and I am the Innovation and Sustainability Manager for OntoCommons. Now we'll be introducing this session. So the first person who will join us apparently requires no introduction. When I said to him, "How would you like to be introduced?" he said, "Every single person in this room knows me already." So please welcome Arko.
Perfect. So, hello everybody. Here. Okay. Okay. Hello everybody. So, I'm going to present a recent publication what we did as a joint effort from OntoCommons. Many members from OntoCommons, but this was conducted by Stand ICT project. What we published is a landscape survey of the ontology standards. Now, to give you a context of the work, so this is under the EU Observatory for ICT Standardization, and they are looking into many different subjects, many different areas they are trying to cover. You can go into this link and see there is a nice diagram or structure kind of way to organize different standards. You can search through all the existing standards, and our effort was part of it. But before going there, a little bit more about this EUOS, EU Observatory for Standard Landscape Surveys, which has been so far conducted. You can see some of these examples on your right-hand side. They are covering different subjects from IoT, digital twin, semantic web, general artificial intelligence. So the idea is to cover the existing standards and technical specification in this, in this area, so that they kind of affect the future topics in the EU ICT rolling plan, and also it contribute to the decisions taken in the digital single market. And that is the main purpose of it. But now coming back to our particular focus, it was about the ontology. And of course, the ontology is a big component of the ICT because it enables the data exchange, data storage, data representation. So we started around last year. So it has been like almost a year it took us to publish this. And we had a committee, and I was grateful to get an opportunity to coordinate it. And we had experts from many different areas. Some of them are actually sitting in this room, but also from other organizations, also university, companies, as you can see, and you know many of them. And then, so to talk about how did we conduct the survey. So we had three criteria kind of to, categorize the ontology. So we first looked into the ontologies, which has got an endorsement from a recognized standardization body. So of course ISO, but also, ISO, IEEE are very much known, but also HC, ITU, AIOTI, SANE, of course, is there. Then we looked for the ontologies which have been developed and published by some project, and can be a national project, European project, but we also looked into other projects which has some kind of transnational global footprint, and we collected those ontologies which has been published by those projects. In the end, of course, it's a little bit controversial that we also went into the peer-reviewed journals, and then, ontologies published by academic group over the years. And then you may say that why you are including them, because are they standards? I mean, well, the argument was some of these ontologies which has been developed for like many years, old ontologies are extremely well accepted in some communities. So there are examples, say manufacturing or say material, there are some old ontologies which are not standard. It's actually published by some academic group, but then it got well accepted because there were no standards at that time. Exclusion criteria we did not consider, which is not an so-called ontology as terms of like vocabulary, taxonomy, or a glossary. And then, of course, the sources we try to search are, of course, the ISO database, IEEE database. Then, of course, very importantly, we search through the ontology repository, existing ontology repository. There are some other repository created by personal effort, like say LOV for IoT. And then most importantly, this survey got a major contribution from the OntoCommons own landscape survey, which we conducted as part of our deliverable, and it's already published. And it was published in the first year of the project itself. So when we did this survey, we got some major contribution from there. And of course, the members' knowledge also kind of helped us to curate some ontologies in there. Okay, so now it is published. It has been published last month, and then it says, thanks to Trust IT, it is like nicely wrapped up, and then so it is now available. Got a UI number, and then you can look into it. It is publicly available. And all, we also got some good, I will say, pat on the back from the European Commission. There are some statements from some prominent member of the Commission. Of course, what is common in their opinion is that the public sector data needs to be interoperable. And that's why, ontology is very important. And to know about the existing standards in the ontology obviously helps in furthering the criteria for the future decision or the plans, and also the project calls and etc. So a snapshot of the landscape, we got 150 kind of ontologies curated, and we have covered many different topics. You can see, like from security, computer science, systems engineering, IoT, many different areas of IoT. Also construction. We also got some ontology from, say, biology, cultural heritage, linguistic, etc., though few. Also we have categorized this different ontology standard according to this 5 category. And then I was talking about that kind of follows our criteria, that there are standard specification, but then there are also technical specifications. Sometimes like W3C publish technical specification instead of a standard specification. But also there are products. For example, IIRDS is a product from a company. Then there are, of course, ontology published by the project, and in the end, the ontologies which are published by academic effort. Now, in the end, I want to talk about some of the observation after conducting this survey, that there are 2 different ways now ontology and standards are related. First is that ontologies, as it is, like they are trying to get the recognition of the standardization body, as we were seeing throughout the morning. So they are ontology as standard is being kind of promoted. But then there is also a talk that how can we ontologize the existing standard? So these are 2 ways, to see the problem. I think this survey only covers the first point, where ontology as standard, where the ontology models are trying to be recognized by a standardization body. But then I think that we can have the convergence and we can converge these two efforts. Of course, like the ontology models needs to kind of, consider adopting the foundational concept, formalization, and some normative, documentation, so that they are not like, ad hoc and then everybody starting from scratch. And then of course that will be like a divergence. But then standards also need to move away from the natural language description and try to adopt the formalization of the definition, which I believe that some of the effort has already been started. But then where it can fail in the future is that, of course, we have to understand that, whether it's an ontology or whether it's a standard, it can be, something can be standardized by prescription. Of course, if you have authority in your community, you can make something as a standard just by prescription. But then there is another way to do standardization, which is by consensus. And the consensus comes when you use foundational concept. I remember there's a quotation from Gizardi. They actually say that top-level ontologies, so-called, top-level ontologies are common sense ontologies. It's very counterintuitive. But then if you think deeply, if you use foundational concept, then you have some commonsensical explanation of what they are trying to say. And then the last observation is that even if we done that, I want to say that conducting a landscape survey of an ontology is not useful, because the ontologies needs to be there in a repository along with other ontologies. And so we have some, say, for example, OntoCommons, through OntoCommons, we actually, developed, and it is now live, the industry portal, continuously acquiring ontologies and storing them with fair metadata. Now, of course, it is very easy to go into the landscape page and find all the information you want of these ontologies. And so you will get a live, updated information from a portal, which is not possible from a survey conducted at a certain point of time. And that is all. Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Harvey. Paul is working group co-chair at the ITUT focus group on autonomous networks and engages in standardization with a community of industry, academia, and government. He's also a lecturer in autonomous systems at the University of Glasgow and former co-founder and research lead of the Rakuten Mobile Innovation Studio. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you so much. Unlike the previous speaker, you probably all have absolutely no idea who I am. Thank you for the kind introduction. Perfect, thank you. Okay, hello everyone. Yeah, so today is kind of actually quite nicely following on from the previous talk. I'm here I'm here as part of something called HS Booster, which you may or may not have heard of before. And it's really kind of a short talk overview of how to do standards and where that's going in some of my own experiences. So who am I and why should you listen to me? So my name is Paul Harvey. I am currently a lecturer at the University of Glasgow, as was said. Previously, I used to work in a Japanese mobile phone company. And the interesting part of this is in the phone company, we actually set up and established this focus group in the ITUT on autonomous networks. But now I continue to contribute to that as an academic. So I've kind of seen this standardization process from the industrial perspective and the academic perspective. And along the bottom is the interesting research that I do, which you can find me and ask me about later, of course. Okay, so why are we doing standardization? So some of the, let's say, propaganda or good words from the Commission. So this leads to long-term competitiveness in various different things of knowledge, know-how, and innovation. It leads us in getting products to market, because if we can have a common understanding of what we're talking about, companies are more likely to pick this up. It's relevant to all stages of the research that we do. I'm kind of assuming that we have a mainly academic audience listening today. Am I wrong? Anyone not academic? Perfect. Oh, I saw a hand up. I'll find you and ask you later. And we get interoperable advancement. But, you know, and this is backed up with, you know, important people in the commission telling us these things about how to do this and why standardization is important from, you know, innovators in the kind of industrial side of things, from researchers like ourselves, and in education for standardization for what it is that's actually going on. But given the audience, here's the real reason, right? And it's an excellent networking opportunity, right? So we're in the focus group that I participate in, you get to meet lots of companies and you get to see who is there from different places all around the world. You get to meet kind of government bodies coming from different things, policymakers, some journalists even. So it's a really good opportunity to meet a wide variety of different people in different contexts. For the second point, and this can be quite true sometimes, it's a good place to learn how to talk to industry. In terms of furthering our research, sometimes it can be very, the term is often, you know, to live in the ivory tower. I have my very simple example and I do my things in my simple example and that's great. But when you go to industry, they don't care about your simple example many times. You know, they want to understand, well, how does this benefit me? Why should I listen to you? What's going on? So it's a good way to learn how to, you know, what's the vocabulary to use, what's the tone to take, and basically, you know, just how to interact with this very important set of partners that we have to lead to, you know, the next point, which is what are the real use cases out there? You know, what are the, you know, meaningful examples that we can still apply the research that we want to do to, but also to do so in a way that leads to, you know, meaningful engagement with industry partners, you know, and then the next point of this impact and valorization, not simply for the, you know, the KPIs that we have to hit in the universities, but also to actually make, you know, meaningful change. We do our research because we're passionate about it, but if we can actually apply this to, you know, greater society and the people that live in the worlds that we live in too, then that's a really good thing. And standardization from, you know, a pretty good perspective is a nice way to be able to achieve that. Okay. So what is HS Booster? So in a very simple thing, it's a way to enable researchers to achieve many of these different elements. So we have a nice scientist on the left there, and I think other colleagues are going to talk more about this today. But basically, HS Booster offers two different things. One is the one at the top, which is what they call experts, which is to help you on the standardization journey for, you know, taking whatever your interest or domain is and progressing that towards standards in many different formats. And then the one at the bottom there is training. And the outcome here is good standards or good standards process, whatever that means in your particular domain. And of course, this is not a one-way street. This is a two-way street. So if you have good standards, you also have what we heard beforehand about, you know, leading to impact or valorization, leading to use cases, leading to new partners who might be willing to engage in your research and perhaps fund or support it in different ways. Okay, more formally, it looks like this. So they take EU projects that are ongoing or complete. They combine it with either standards experts, as they say, or the TrainingAcademy, which we'll talk about in a second. And then you have this kind of flowchart of, like, you know, filtering your request to understand how to match you in the right way to the right service to give you, you know, the right help that you would require. Okay, so there's this other thing called the TrainingAcademy, but someone really is going to talk about this. But the only thing I wanted to highlight is, even if you're a super beginner and you have no idea what this crazy world of standards is, or you're a seasoned expert who's ready to actually become part of the process, they're accommodating to you and your needs. Okay, the service, if you choose to go for the expert side of thing, you know, you actually pick up a human being to come and help you, such as myself. It looks something like this. So it's pretty sensible. You have a chat, you figure out what it is that everyone wants to achieve. You have a period of, let's say, 3 months. You have some backwards and forwards going on to do this, and then you have a kind of well-defined culmination or endpoint where help comes back to you in the way that you requested. All right, standards, they're cool, right? And we all need more, because of course we need more, because if we didn't have more, why would we need so many different standards bodies, which is why we need one more standards body. Yeah, this is a very easy situation to get into, and there are so many different standards bodies out there. So one of the first things you can find yourself wanting to ask, skip the slide. So from this perspective of there are many different things to do in standards, where do we go and what do we do? So from the perspective of ontologies and knowledge graphs, this was a couple of years, but Gardner was saying we're kind of at the bottom of this curve, right? And it's in this nice 2 to 5 year horizon of becoming, what's it called? The plateau of productivity, right? So this is usually a good spot to go and standardize something. 5 to 10 years is the version I heard. 2 to 5 years is a good spot because you're in that working space where it's time to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, and do the process of engaging with other communities to progress your idea towards being standardized. Then you kind of come to the question, so this is just like an idea of what is standards and what's the process you go through, right? So then you come to the idea of, well, what are your standards? Is it content? So for example, is it a specific ontology in a specific domain that you want other people to conform to? Is it a data format? Is it something like that? Is it an enabling technology that will enable whatever it is you want to see happen to come true? So it could be a particular software architecture or a particular tool for describing the content that you have. Do you want to document the use cases that pertain to your domain, to categorize them and chop them up? In telecommunications, this is extremely popular to do. Or are there frameworks? And I don't mean software frameworks, but I mean like conceptual frameworks, ways of thinking. For example, trust. Should we have a framework for how we describe trust? There's always then the inevitable question of, well, where do you go to do this? I don't want to talk too much, but there are many different pathways to achieving standards, and it can be quite daunting to know which way you want to go. So in that sense, I actually recommend, before jumping into this one, actually, something that a lot of people don't think about is this idea, well, there's actually standards, but there's also pre-standards. And my recommendation, especially if you're going into this new, is to go and look at pre-standards. What this means is, unlike the often very formal processes you can have in standards bodies, pre-standards is more about thinking, it's about bringing communities together and looking at new topics in emerging areas and bringing, to understand, well, what do we actually want to do here? Well, let's study the topic a little bit, explore the area before jumping into the full formalized standards process. The other one is time. Standards takes a really long time. To give you an example, this was my own particular journey. So this was the focus group we were doing. So we started discussions, actually, it was really winter 2020 with different parties, but we started doing it properly in summer 2020. It took about 6 months of just lobbying, basically, meeting people, knocking on doors, having Zoom calls, sending emails, asking friends of friends, just saying, hey, we've got this thing, you want to come be part of it? Then, in the end of the year, we were able to kind of go and advocate for the creation of this new group to explore the topic. And it's, been since then just this continuous, endless, nothing to do with the standards per se, but in the background, this community building, holding events, bringing people together, connecting dots, inviting talks for people to come and do things, in addition to encouraging the contributions, editing the documents, pulling together the ideas to have a clear, coherent narrative on what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. And then after that, you get into the case of this kind of pre-standards thing that happens in blue to transition towards the more formalized standards process, which can be very different again, where you have to maintain all this kind of consensus that you've built up and bring together these partners into a more formalized process where you have, let's say, other actors who might not be so interested or aware of what you do. And you still have to get their support usually in going forward, or at least their lack of contestation. So here you have some different examples of different things that we were working on there. And you have this landscape document, which was a really nice presentation before me. In our case, we try to think of this more as a living document that continues to get added to and that we grow over time. Find your community. So one of the other things is find the people you can work with. It can often be the case that you think, okay, these are the people working on it, that's what we need to go and do. However, if they don't buy into what you're trying to say, or if you have to spend a lot of time and effort convincing them that that's the right thing to do, then you can waste a lot of the good effort you want to put in bringing your technology towards a more formalized description and lose it, battling the political or the social elements rather than focusing on the good technology advancement. And beyond finding your own community, if you can find an advocate or a champion, especially a very seasoned member of the community that you can kind of learn from or get on board with what you want to do, it's a really, really good way to make progress through this. And that's it. That's my exciting 15 minutes, my very simple and brief overview into standards. Thank you so much for bringing me along, and have a nice day.
Next, we welcome Ivana Mijatovic, who will join us online. Ivana is a full professor of standardization in the Faculty of Organizational Sciences at the University of Belgrade, and she serves as lead at hsbooster.eu Standardization Training Academy, which was just mentioned, and the EOS Standards Education Group Chair at Stand ICT. She's Vice President of the Board of the European Academy for Standardization, EURAS, and she has served on various bodies which have had working groups that were concerned with education about standardization. Dobrodošla, Ivana. The floor is yours.
So, thank you for invitation to present to you something more about Aegis Booster. So I'm Ivana Mijatovic. I'm professor of standardization at University of Belgrade, and I'm lead of Aegis Booster Training Academy. This training academy, can I have a next slide? What is Aegis Booster? So basically, Aegis Booster is a Horizon Europe project. We are practically experiment of European Commission, and our main task is to make standardization closer to researchers through services and through Training Academy. And we are supporting Horizon projects in use of existing standard, revise of existing standard, and contribution to creation of new or revised standard. So basically, we are consortium, small, compact consortium. Comply and Trust IT are managing partners. Dublin City University and University of Belgrade are higher education and the researchers part, and we have National Standardization Organization of Dansk and as a national standardization body of Dansk, and SGS as our project partner. So basically, next slide, please. So basically, the task of Aegis Booster Training Academy is to make standardization closer to researchers. So we are defining and providing wide range of training activities such as textbooks, case studies, user stories, success stories, serious games, webinars, workshops, and training session. Next slide, please. So who are our target audience? So basically, our target audience are researchers. Basically, in this project, in this part of project, we are focusing on project consortia, and our target audience are specific but not homogeneous. We have researchers from many domains, from many variety of sectors, and real challenge for us as training providers and training designers is that we have a wide variety of group dynamics in project consortia and different types of project consortia, and real challenge is practically how to make standardization closer to all of them. Next slide. So to do that, we developed specific methodology for this case, and our goal in this methodology is to make or to help researchers to develop to the stage to be able to influence processes and outcomes of standardization. Basically, our training academy is defined in 3 levels. First level is basics. If you have no idea what standardization is and what for standardization is and why do researchers need standards and standardization, then the basic level might be good a good place for you. The second level is focus on practice. So there is a lot of answer and question how to do this and how to do that, how to find right standards for your research, how to participate in technical committee in general or in specific technical committee. And the last level, the advanced level, is dedicated to gaining some sort of experience. So we have advanced 1 and advanced 2 dedicated to gaining researchers' experience in standardization. Next slide. So what we have done. The Aegis Booster Training Academy published a training platform on April 21st. So basically now we have 3 levels as we planned, and we are looking for new case studies and new experience of researchers and experts having which they have in standardization. Next slide. So, Aegis Booster for Beginners. At our Training Academy platform, you can find written material and you can find a training session recorded, or you can have our training session on demand if you are Horizon project. So basically, these are modules, and we can collect for you, or you can decide what your consortia needs to know and what your partners need to know, and then we can provide you a custom-made training for your specific project, and we have a training session. I will talk about them later. Next, please. At the level of practice, our intermediate level, we have we provided some some answer on specific question: how to find right standard, how to participate in technical committee or work group, how standards are developed within SDOs in Europe and internationally. Right now, we are preparing a very interesting topic demanded from our project: is how to develop certification scheme. The next slide. At the level of intermediate 2, we develop a serious game. So basically, what is a serious game? This is role play and simulation game which can be played on site or online, and with aims to develop soft skills needed in standardization process: argumentation skills, strategic position, building compromise, and common understanding. So we are training our researchers how to talk to industry practically. One of the role is James, who is owner of startup and project partner on Horizon Europe project. So we would like, and our wish, we carefully developed this game and tried tried and tested with care with other researchers, and up to now we have good results. So I think that we are going to play this game on 20 July. But what is the problem? We can accept only 20 participants at the one session. This game is developed in collaboration with House of Knowledge, and if you are interested to empower yourself or to develop your skills and upgrade your skills, communication skills needed in standardization process, we are Aegis Boosters here for you. Next slide, please. So basically, our third level, advanced level, is dedicated to case studies. So we are very interesting to see experience of the projects in standardization. And this is part of Training Academy, which is now our focus. Next slide, please. So our Training Academy is open for every one of you who would like to take materials, learn from these materials. But we are looking forward to join us. And if you have anything to say just to be one of contributors of the Aegis Booster Training Academy. Next slide. So we developed 3 training series. First is Introduction to Standardization for beginners users. Next is Standardization in Practice. And the last one is Drive on Standardization. Next slide, please. So June is specifically active in our training academy. So tomorrow we have our second training session dedicated to European standardization system. We will have guests from Sense, Enelec, and ETSI. And in June 20, we will have our The Serious Smiling Game presentation, and training session 3, standard users and use of standards, will be on June 23rd. So we will have a guest from Small Business Standard and ANEC, and I hope that this training session might be interesting for you. Next slide, please. So our next training session, we are planning a next sprint in September, October, and November. SDOs for researchers, how to find right standards, how to participate, fast track standardization, terminology standards, and metrology standards. If you are interested for specific topic, you want to know something more on specific topic, please let us know what you need. We can prepare, we can invite other people, we can prepare the training for you. The training session Drive on Standardization is specifically developed for project consortia. So when it's the right time for standardization in research process is our first training in this training series. We will train you how to develop certification scheme, how to develop standardization strategy of your research organization and why, patenting or standardization or both. And we will provide you introduction to standard essential patents and let's say business aspect of standardization. And last plan training is building alliances or alliances association of research projects and projects partner to have, let's say, stronger voice in standardization or stronger voice when talk to industry. Last slide. So yes, this is my last slide, and thank you so much for your patience. Yes, we develop a better version of our training academy, and we are looking forward to see you and to interact with you. But what is a critical factor success of our training academy is practically joint effort of academic researchers, standardization professionals, and experts from industry. So please join standardization community, which is quite vibrant, and there are many voices in there, but the voice of researchers should be heard in standardization training. Thank you so much. This is the end of my presentation. Yeah. Last slide.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you so much.
So the last speaker of this session is Anders Herbert. He's an engineer at IBEL. And he has extensive plant and equipment engineering experience. And for the past 10 years, he's been implementing use of semantic technology in IBEL and related industry projects. Welcome, Anders.
Thank you. Well, I will be talking a lot about not the premature standards, but the mature standards and how we can convert them to the ontologies we need. Able, design and construct things like this. This is a converter station for offshore wind farm and a module for offshore oil and gas development. This is the kind of products we design, purchase components for, and build. And it's all in accordance with industry standards. So at Able, we have captured the intent of many of the industry standards. What you see here is an import graph, and the bubbles represent ontologies, and most of those ontologies are a representation of industry standard content. We have been doing so to ensure that we specify in accordance with standards, that we don't create any duplicate and ambiguity. And this has been in operation for nearly 10 years and will continue to be operated at Able. But obviously, representing industry standard content locally in a company is not a good solution. So this is the kind of things that we find in our ontology. This is called a weld neck flange. Such a flange has features, and those features are represented. The end features. It's got a material here represented as a class of material in a specific grade. So we say this is the geometrical requirements. Here's the material, and these are the features. By the way, many other types of products have the same features. This has got to do with connectability on the plant. In the OntoCommons Able use case, we have used a published ontology, PLM reference data at POSC-CSAR Association. It's limited, but it's with ISO 15926 part 14, the now IDO ontology as a top ontology. And we have a sufficient vocabulary to ensure that the use case is sufficient. So going back to the industry standards. Industry standards may be European standards, ISO standards, ESME, API. There are challenges representing them as ontologies. You obviously need to have the weld neck flange as a class if you want to say that many different industry standards has weld neck flange. So you need a domain ontology level to capture the content of the industry standard, and the industry standards themselves refer to other industry standards. Now you see it as a list of references in the document, but these are actually, if you want to produce such a weld neck flange, you can only use that or that or that material from another standard. But it's all predictable, it's all possible to represent in such a way that the industry can utilize it. Because this has been tested for 100 years. The standards are there, it's mature, the relationships between the standards are there. We know that these are the types of things that you can use to build a converter station or an offshore processing module. Now, industry standards alone is not enough. You specify your product, what you would like to install, what you would like to procure, and such a specification is here seen as a specific an object specification with references to multiple industry standards, and such an item is then instantiated in an asset model. So thereby you have the instances in the asset model, and you have references back to the industry standards that are in accordance with the design code. Today, we've heard about sentence-centric XML of industry standards. It's our belief that we need to have references between standards, and that we need an upper ontology with domain-specific types that is utilized to give the meaning to the standards, that it's not sufficient to use an XML representation of the standard itself as basis for creating an industry standard ontology. So what we are doing now in the use case, taking the information from the industry standards such as these are all material specifications, using the ISO 15926 part 14 top ontology and domain-specific ontology. It is not material science. It's just capturing the information in the industry standards. So the properties, the chemical composition per material grade is the kind of information we are capturing. And by doing so, we enable the use in the different applications where such, or the different work processes where such information is found. It's in specifications, it's in data sheets, and it's in materials certificates, for instance. And this is tabular view on some of the industry standard content. And a challenge we have here, one data set, and in the use case, we will show how that data set is represented such that we can exchange the information between parties in an unambiguous way, and at the same time create clauses with restrictions that is useful when doing semantic reasoning to see that this is an object that is suitable in this design case. So we have a setup that is functional. We are using the published PLM reference data library to support it. And we want to see a development in ontology building that supports the industry long term. That includes industry standards as ontologies.
So, thank you very much, Anders, and thank you to all the speakers. Does anybody have any pressing questions, or are you all dying for a coffee? Is that a no? We have no questions online as far as I can tell. So I thank again all the speakers, and let's go and take a coffee. Thank you all.
Thank you, and we're back in the next session on training and education and ontology interoperability. So the next two sessions should have started at 4:15. We're some minutes late, so we'll start around 4:30. And for the people in the room, the parallel session will be here, and so the training and education session is here, and then the ontology interoperability session is in the shell room. And for the people online, you can join from the schedule. Thank you all.